Hello and welcome to what is going to be a very unique episode of Pass the Torch, Legacies in Jewelry. There are a lot of new listeners these days, so I just want to take a moment and welcome you and reintroduce myself and the premise of this podcast. My name is Naja de Savandist. I am a young bench jeweler in the first year of my training and experience, and I created this podcast as an opportunity to learn from and talk to some of the best jewelers and jewelry industry professionals in the world. And that's been a ton of fun. So traditionally what I do is I invite on a guest and we talk for about 45 minutes to an hour and I ask them about themselves. But today's going to be a little bit different. Today I am going to talk to a group of people. One of the main things that I've been doing lately is I've been doing a lot of research on different schools and classes and looking at an education trajectory that would be ideal for me. And what I've discovered is that one of my goals is going to be to attend the GRS Grandmasters class. It's only held once every 2 years, and every year that it is held, it is a different topic, a different expertise, and they bring in a lot of really different types of jewelers to teach these classes. It's a unique opportunity. It's a unique class setup where pretty much everyone that you're in the class with is really advanced. And the application process is intensive from what I've heard. I've never actually applied. I didn't feel like this last go around that my skills had the chops to be in the same room as some of the people that were actually there and got to go and experience this class. But at the same time, I'm also super curious about it. And I think as a young jeweler, if you're looking at what is to come and planning your career, this is definitely a class that you want to have on your radar. It's certainly on mine. And so this episode is not affiliated or associated with GRS. I'm just simply doing research and wanting to learn as much as I can about the experience and what some of the other jewelers who were able to take it took away from the class. So I also invited on the teacher this year, actually invited back Michael Robinson, who is going to jump on here in just a moment and tell us what he took away from the class and the experience. So hang in for a really fun episode today. We're going to first talk to Michael Robinson, and then we're going to talk to a couple of the students and learn from them what they took away from this really unique class setup and project and experience. All right, Michael Robinson, welcome back to the podcast, Pass the Torch.
Thank you for having me back again. I thought you'd be sick of me by now.
Nope. Happy to have you on anytime. Okay, so you just got done teaching this 2-week course that for a few of our listeners, they've never heard of it. This was a pretty intense 2 weeks that you guys were in a workshop together every day working on a singular project that you were teaching, that you brought the concept and the instruction to the table. What were some of your biggest takeaways and reflections?
Yeah, I think intense is, first of all, intense is the correct word for it, especially probably more so for me. I think everybody in the class had taken different classes before. Obviously, Grandmasters is a little bit of a special thing. But yeah, for me, the first time in a jewelry class, and being the teacher on something so special and important, it was pretty intense for me. My main takeaway from the course, I mean, other than just being overwhelmed by how wonderful the facility was, I mean, obviously anything new for me is a little bit awkward in terms of setup, but I couldn't have really asked for a better stocked classroom. But more so, again, just the people. I think that's one of my bigger takeaways, just how wonderful and welcoming and a real family sort of feel the school has. But from a practical point of view, student wise and teaching, I think my biggest takeaway would be just how differently people's brains work. Everybody's, I mean, it makes sense. Everybody's an individual. And even though I was trying to teach the same thing to everybody, everybody processes information differently. So I had to do a group sort of explanation, but then I found I was wandering around and people were bringing me things and I had to explain the things. In a way, it was kind of like a puzzle figuring out what would land and be digestible to each individual where they'll be able to absorb what it is I'm trying to share. I guess I also learned I think quite differently to most people. So, yeah, just passing on information when my brain thinks reasonably differently was a fun challenge also.
Well, you kind of touched on it, but I want to highlight the point that you made that this was the very first jewelry classroom that you have ever stepped foot in, and you were teaching.
Yeah. Yep. No, it was the joke that kept on being said. Was my first time ever in a jewelry classroom. I dropped out of high school. I didn't have any formal training in anything I do. So for the first time in a jewelry classroom to be teaching not only a class but a grandmaster's class, it was an education for me too.
That's awesome. So, talk to me a little bit about what it felt like to be in that room because there are a lot of really high caliber jewelers together in that room. Their brains work differently. What was the energy and how did you guys play off each other for 2 full weeks?
Yeah, I guess my how I was feeling would change on a day-to-day basis, and even many times in that day, I often felt a little bit like a fish out of water. Um, so the way I work is very instinctual and very creative and artistic. I get the job done, but I get about it through a beautiful journey of exploration and what works and what feels right and how I can make something look like what's in my head. I learned most jewelers' brains work by being told you need a 1.2 something here and your graver needs to be at a 53.5 degree angle there. And that's just not the way my brain works. I'm very instinctual, as I said. So formatting what it was I was trying to portray in a way that other people could understand. There was a whole group that just were totally inspired and could just sort of pick up what I was putting down and they ran with it. Um, there were other people that needed a little bit more explaining. And there was a tiny, tiny group that just was having no part of it. So that was something for me to deal with also. Um, but more so the and this is something that Chris from GRS was very big on. He gave me the grace to not only teach the how-tos, but the whys. He realized that that was where my magical little special sauce is, and he was fully on board with me portraying that, which was just a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, and this has kind of now become a very special thing that happened as you have stated that, teaching is something, at least on a technical level, is something that you may or may not return to. So it's kind of like this was it.
Yeah, I get the feeling that this was a one-off sort of teaching the practicalities. I very much enjoy speaking at art colleges and museums and talking about design and my different creative philosophies. I love inspiring that way. I'm not sure teaching the practicalities is something I will ever do again. I think the people in this class might have had the opportunity, the one and only opportunity to learn the practicalities from me, which is kind of pretty special. And
Yeah.
I actually kind of really love that it is just shared with this one little batch of people.
Well, and that's why it is special is because your technical skills are so incredibly your own. You have made your own way, like, you haven't necessarily always relied on such a specific systematic way of doing things. You really create as you are going, and so I think, having that input from you in the classroom setting was really cool, and those people are very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, we're all lucky to have the time together. I just love the thought of being able to inspire people to think outside the box. Like occasionally, a student would bring up this particular tool to show me, and I'll try to like feint, like pretend to be interested. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, cool, but like, what are you going to do with that tool? I am so about creativity and thinking outside the box, coloring outside the lines. And I think sometimes classrooms can be making everybody think a certain similar way and using a similar practical tool. I just want people to know that there's this beautiful world outside the little boxes, and GRS was fully on board with me teaching that way, which is amazing. And yeah, I just wanted to open up people's environments to something bigger than just the normal that everybody else is doing.
That's fantastic. Let's jump in really quickly to some of those reflections from some of the students in the class. All right, James Pettit, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You are you're one of my favorites because there's a small group of about 15 jewelers. Every time I put out an episode, that group messages me with feedback telling me that they heard it and anything like that. And you are consistently one of those people. So thank you.
Well, yes, I enjoy listening. Yeah,
It's such a joy. Can you tell everyone who you are and where you're located and how you got into
absolutely.
jewelry?
Absolutely. My name is James Pettit. I live and work in Charleston, West Virginia, at my family-owned jewelry store that my dad opened in 2001, same year I was born. So I've kind of been around it forever. I got more serious about it when I was 16-ish. In high school, I would go after getting out of school, and in the summers I started working, and it came time to look at universities and stuff that offered jewelry making, and I decided to go to the Savannah College of Art and Design. I didn't stay because I was ready to work and make stuff and create and have fun within that. So I was ready to go. And then this is where, my story gets very similar to a lot of the others that come on the podcast. I found New Approach, um, and went to their long program in, I believe, 2022. And from there on, just back and forth, going to see them, taking their advanced classes, advanced pave with Jason, and deep relief sculpting and pneumatic engraving,
Cool.
all the things. And then I ran out of things, took them all, um, which is a good thing. And I guess that leads us to most recently going to Grandmasters, having the privilege to go there and study with Michael Robinson, which was wonderful.
Yeah. So you were the youngest in this class.
Yes.
And it is for the 2 weeks. Can you tell me just your general reflections and takeaways?
Going in, I was, knowing how the things that Michael holds precious in jewelry making and how creative he is. I was curious how much he would have to conform to the needs of the school, in it being a class, whether it be project based or not, or, all of the things you do in classes. But it was, I think, everything that we wanted. It was creative and fun and inspiring and eye-opening. We went in the mornings and would draw and talk about love and heartbreak and things that made you excited and sad, and how to bring that through and tell stories through your jewelry. We also went over all the technical stuff, of course, because you have to. It's a class, and so we did that. The project was great, and the the time that we got to spend with him just talking about things that he's done in the past. And then, he'd bring up pictures and show us all sorts of progress photos, which I'm sure you've seen some of. Is very fun to go through those.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all around just lovely. And we had, a very fun time, lots of laughs and 90s rap music and hip hop. We did a lot of that. So, it was wonderful. And I'm leaving that class very inspired, and it was a pleasure to be there, and feel so lucky that I was chosen, especially at a formative time in my career, very young and malleable. Malleable.
Yeah. So how do
So,
you think this class is going to inform your design moving forward?
yeah, so I think most importantly, I'm going to move forward thinking more preciously about the things that I put my time into, whether that being like just being sure to tell stories and be creative, allowing myself to be creative. Because one thing that we discussed in detail in the class was that, and I'm guilty, a lot of us create things to showcase our skills and what we can do. But I want to move forward in making things that are, experimental and inspiring and, just have a lot to say and expand my mind. That's what this class was for, is, making us think more critically and be precious about some things and less precious about others. And, I think being young in this industry or in any industry, hills look like mountains and it's very easy to get discouraged. But, he encourages just experimenting and trying and, you know, running straight into the things that you don't know how to do and figure them out. That's the fun part. That's not the part to be scared of, because once you know how to do everything, it's not fun anymore. So, in my designs, adding more elements that I might not be 100% sure how to do, and then going into it, trying to figure it out.
Is there anything that Michael said during the class that has continued to ring in your head or echo through, your thoughts as you've walked away from the class now for a little bit of time?
I think that one thing in particular is that, we talked about how a lot of times as jewelers, we will design things with a laundry list in mind of skill sets that we have. And then we subconsciously will design things to incorporate those. And then you sort of, in the end up with something that a lot of times just is a nice piece of jewelry, but doesn't tell a wonderful story. Something that I want to do moving forward is, not only utilize the skill sets that I have, but continue to design things that bring me challenges along the way and afford me the capability of experimentation and having fun and making things that tells beautiful stories.
So not
Yeah.
being cautious, right? Like not just
Yeah.
designing within your skill set to show
Right.
off or prove
Right.
something,
Yeah. Exploring
but
things
design beyond.
beyond. Yes, exploring things beyond, what I know that I can do, and things that I'll have to think about while making, or, well, hopefully before making. But yeah, just have more fun and be experimental and enjoy the journey of making.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Thank you. Hopefully, um, being overall more thoughtful in the work that I make.
A consistent mode of challenging yourself in your own
Yes,
way.
I think so.
Not get too
Yes.
comfortable. Yeah,
Right.
cool.
Yeah. I think that, I feel very lucky to have gone and to have been chosen. Michael's just an awesome guy. He's funny. It's fun. It was just a fun 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Everyone else in the class, very inspiring and just fun being around them as well. So, yeah, it was an overall great experience.
I love that. Well, where
Mhm.
can people find you? Where can we see your work
Um,
progress?
prim- uh, Primarily on Instagram, at James M. Pettit. That's kind of, progress photos and, all the fun stuff. I'm trying to be more active, and, that Michael encouraged, show it all, you know. Oh, it's part of the reason why I'm so excited to be here. So, it's helping me step out a little bit.
Yeah. Can you allude to the classroom kind of inside joke that I heard about through the grapevine about your Instagram?
I think you're referring maybe to my profile picture, which anyone watching this will not see anymore because it's gone. I was told that I think it was old and a little bit scary.
I liked the photo. It was this great photo of you, like, leaning over a crucible, so the fire came,
Uh-huh.
like, the reflection was
Yeah.
in your face. I thought
I
it
thought it
looked
was cool
cool,
too. Yeah.
but Michael was like he couldn't he had seen your Instagram before, and he couldn't
Mhm.
correlate you to this, like, very ominous photo.
I know. It's actually on my Instagram if you scroll down a bit. So if you
There
do
you
want to go
go.
see it, you can scroll down a little bit and go see it. But yeah, it's totally a little scary or
We'll get
something.
you a
I
new
don't know.
headshot.
Yeah. Need one.
There you go. Amazing. Well, James, thanks for coming on. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you. Sean Smokovitch, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you. So, can you tell people a little bit about your background and how you got into jewelry?
Yeah, so I'd say it all began with my fascination of crystals and gemstones. When I was, I think about 6 or so, we lived in Tennessee for a brief moment, and in our backyard we had little geodes, and in those geodes were little amethyst kind of cavities. So that's kind of where it started. When I was about 18, 17 or 18, I started wire wrapping. As I was doing that, I was mining for crystals too. Um, kind of pairing those two started kind of helping me to understand form. And a lot of the times I would give my friends crystals that I found and they would lose them because they were usually small, And then when I realized that wire wrapping was a thing, I was like, oh, cool, I can give my friends things that they can put on their neck as pendants and they'll most likely not lose them as quickly. That I did for quite some time. I think I had bent wire in every different way that I could possibly bend it. My creative reservoir kind of got tapped at that point, and a lot of other people started doing it. So there was kind of a creative reservoir drop, and the market kind of went. But
Oversaturated.
I yeah, it was oversaturated, and somebody that was maybe looking at something that somebody else did for, a cheaper price didn't realize that maybe mine was different in that, I always valued myself in having the stones so they wouldn't fall out. Which was also kind of a limiting factor because I also realized, oh, a lot of this stuff I don't feel confident. I'm not saying that people can't do it, but I didn't personally feel confident going over a certain price point because I was concerned that later down the road, it may not lack an heirloom quality that I wasn't comfortable with putting really, really, really expensive stones in that. But at the same time, I had a friend who I'd been talking to for a long time about casting and wax carving and stuff like that, Adam Ramsayer, Ramstar Designs. And he hit me up one day and was like, hey, I am moving to this little town in California in Sonoma County called Occidental. And I lived in Sebastopol at the time. And it was about 15-minute drive or so. And he was like, we should do the things that we've been talking about for years. And I was like, yes. So that kicked off about a 3-year adventure in spending 6 days a week over there pretty much every day, casting our own stuff and casting our friends' stuff. And I should mention that a little bit before that, I went with another friend of mine who's also a jeweler, Liam Powers, and we took a wax kind of creative wax carving class in Mendocino, which is another town in California. So those things combined really got my creative reservoir filled and overflowing, and it's
Cool.
still constantly overflowing. I've been working with stones and metal for 20, let's see, I don't do public math, so 24, 25 years or something like that.
25 years in to jewelry at large in this creative field, you decide to apply to this Grandmaster's class and you get accepted and then you attend. What were your biggest takeaways?
My biggest takeaways, I think, you know, some of my biggest takeaways, I would say, are like I was explaining on the group chat, is not to be so precious about things, you know, which I still will be, but just having that consideration for the allowance of creativity to happen is really important to me and helps to relieve a lot of pressure that's self-inflicted, you know, that I'm sure every jeweler and creative feels that. I try to be really easy on myself prior to taking this class, but this really helped me to say, oh yeah, okay, it's totally fine. Just I can do it. Don't worry about something that hasn't happened yet, and just know that I can do what I'm going to set out to do. So that was one thing. And another thing that I took away from, besides the technical stuff, was a lot of the freedom that learning from Michael Robinson helped me to realize was kind of already within.
Hmm.
So putting the two things together really helped to create a new landscape for me to exist in prior, during, and after I create.
That's awesome. So he encouraged you to play a bit more. Like, not everything has to be a masterpiece, but if it helps you develop your skill and your creativity, then it's worth doing.
I would say so. And each part of it is just as important as, if not more important than the actual conclusion of the project, you know?
Mm.
And really to enjoy the process, which I do, but now I enjoy it even more.
That's amazing. So, how will this class impact your work moving forward?
So there's a technical component which will allow me to create pave settings that are much tighter packed and create much more of a field of color, which I think is just such a cool effect. And then we worked on azures too, you know, cutting out the backs of pieces. And during that, I did a couple of extra practice ones just to experiment. Mike had shown us a certain pattern that he does. And that was a really great way to practice something that I'd never done before. And it creates a really unique pattern. And while I had the time to practice, I did and was very happy with the results. In fact, I'm working on a custom project right now that I'm going to apply both of those techniques to. And I'll probably, when the project calls for it, will always incorporate those two techniques. So there's the technical part. And then coming back to like the ethos of not being so precious and being easy, that is definitely something that I will take with me in an enhanced version. And I think part of it, you know, I said that I'm already pretty good at it, but hearing somebody of Michael's caliber kind of say that, I feel like it gave me permission to like
Yeah.
really, really be
Yeah.
okay with it, you know? So that was a very special thing. And also to have a friend and ally that has gone through a lot of the challenges that come with creating special pieces like that, that I can reach out to is also something that I will take with me.
Right. Of course. Of course. Yeah. He's been so encouraging.
Yeah, totally. It's a very special thing, you know, to have the passion and be able to share it and to encourage people, you know. It is passing the torch.
I love it. I love it so much. Sean, thank you so much for jumping on. It
Yeah.
was a joy to have you. You're welcome on anytime.
Thank you so much. I look forward to another time and thanks again for having me. Yeah, true.
Well, that's great.
No.
Okay, so now that I have a small group of you here, I kind of wanted to hear from the collective how the camaraderie of the class evolved.
Yeah. I'll let you
Yeah.
guys take it first of all.
All right.
I think, starting out, it's like going to any class. You start and it's just everyone's kind of doing their own thing, getting a sense of like how the class works. But I think, I don't know, it probably took an hour before jokes were cracking and everyone was laughing and smiling and
Hmm.
comfortable. So that
Yeah.
was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've kind of found the same way. Obviously, it was my first time in a classroom, so I didn't really know how to kick it off. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of a talk and people were listening. That was good.
That was good. I kind of liken it to a train, you know, where even though it didn't take very long to get the jokes cracking and everything, it's a little bit of a slow roll, and then it just picks up steam, and then it goes and goes and goes, and then and then it was just going. There's a lot of gravity there, a lot of gravity.
I do know for sure eventually there was music being played in the classroom that had never been seen in that facility before. Because like we started off with my like rap music and we didn't go too far, but
Hey.
there was all sorts of really cool music being played during the
Yep.
class.
So
Yeah,
towards the end of
definitely.
it, you guys really had this like camaraderie and togetherness, and you guys were playing off of each other. Did any of that lead into the work?
Mm,
I would
Yeah,
I
I
would
mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, the whole class was about freedom. Part of my opening monologue, if I can call it that, was that the whole class was about freedom. I didn't have a set sort of printed out diagrams and typed up things. I had handwritten a little book for everybody to sort of have as a bit of a guide, but like really my whole world is about creative freedom. I was trying to pass that on. So I thought giving a super set, like strict guidance line just was kind of like, how can I be teaching freedom if I'm not giving the people in the class the respect to know that they're going to like want freedom also?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was something that I enjoyed about the class. Like, I don't know, just took a few days in, and then there were people just all over the place doing different things at different points in their project, or like Star, she chose to draw a lot, and
Mm.
it was just kind of fun, especially just walking in and seeing everyone doing something different. It was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah, and I appreciated um the, I guess, acceptance sometimes. Sometimes I get a little hyphy with the jokes, and I nicknamed James J Money pretty quickly, which I think you accepted pretty quickly as
I
well.
took it in.
Yeah. Um, it was it was really great, being with so many different people from so many different parts of the country and world, because Mike is from New Zealand. And everybody has a different path and a different history, and we all kind of came together in this training center, and it really felt familial pretty quickly, and to be able
Absolutely.
to be in a place where I felt comfortable to be myself and kind of blurt out funny things and random songs and stuff like that at any point in time. I would say, to answer your question, that it did kind of carry over into my work, where that freedom, some of the techniques that Mike shared with us, that freedom really, like he was saying earlier, it did blow my mind a bit. And I kind of gained a new, well, I lost the fear in some parts of this technical pave setting that will definitely be with me for the rest of my life, and probably will add to my years of life because of the lack of anxiety and fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. So do you
I
guys
was
think Go ahead.
Well, I was saying to Naja earlier, like, there's nothing worse than, not that you guys are kids, but like, there's nothing worse than the sadness of seeing a kid being told that they have to color inside the lines. Like, it's such a small minded little world to think that you have to conform and be like everybody else. So, like, to be able to guide and think bigger and like just have that creative freedom, I mean, that's what the world needs right now, especially like acceptance of all the differences, of all the beautiful colors and flavors that we each have, and just to like really like do better and to make more beautiful emotional things. So yeah, well, that was really fun.
Absolutely.
I want to kind of ask, because from my perspective, it looks like you all really came out as friends. How important is that community element at this point in your career?
Well, if I may, the one of the beautiful things about the craft that we have all chosen is that we could probably learn new things every single day for the rest of our entire life and still not even scratch a percentage of what there is to learn. Um, and I find that no matter what is happening with being taught, there's so many great minds in one place that inevitably something will happen, and something will happen that I've not known before. This case was no exception. Even though I, have considered myself pretty skilled with pave, I just picked up some stuff that really, really, really helped me out.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think, I guess we spoke about it earlier, but I feel lucky to have gotten this experience early in my career because of all of the thinking that we did in the class and sort of exploring being more purposeful in telling stories. And so I feel like, moving forward, I will, take a lot of that with me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful to hear. That's really cool.
Yeah, I do also want to touch on that there was an ethos and a philosophy that I've I've never really um has never really been shared with me quite like Mike shared it. Which just like James or J Money, I should say. Uh, I will take that with me for the rest of my life for sure.
How can you summarize it? You mentioned an ethos. Can you try to put that into words?
Yeah, I think part of it was don't take yourself so seriously about certain things, and that you know a big part of it was it really is the process that's the enjoyable part, which I've shared with Mike. And when you combine those two things, and not to be so precious, even though we're working with these precious materials, not to be so precious with that, like with the conceptualization of them,
Yeah.
really helped to just like you know I feel like I'm pretty good with it in a lot of cases, but to hear it reiterated, it's like hitting the valve on a pressure cooker or an instant pot, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, my big thing is that the special element about what we do is you. It's you as a human. That's the special element, not relying on using a super valuable sapphire or a super valuable diamond and leaning on that crutch to carry the piece to think that you're making special things, or even particularly like practical trades. Like, cool, you can engrave a magical scroll, but like, so can many other people. It's what you take in as a human and your life experiences. The fact that like you passed a note to a girl and like she passed it back saying that she likes you too, or that you opened up these trading cards as a kid and you like got this magical aroma of the gum and the bright pink color is like the memory of that. It's all these little things that you carry with you as a human being that then we use the tiny little skills and things that we've picked up, but it's what you do and how you put that into your work and put it out there for people to enjoy. It's the human, it's the you that's important, not what tools you've got, not what stones you've got. It's you, and it's the human that connects to a human. So that's what I was kind of pushing and what people were picking up on. 99% of the people had really good open-minded personalities, and I was there for the open-minded people, and we found our creative soulmates, and we all just really went for it, which was super fun. And again, GRS couldn't have been a more hospitable, like for a for a school that makes particular tools and they're a tool company, to be so open to let like a bunch of us just to be in there and be creative and think outside the box is like, that's really cool of them.
Absolutely.
Super cool opportunity for all of us to get to spend some time together, which, as you know, is super rare for me being around other people.
That's why we feel so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, don't count on it ever happening again. But yeah, that was a special time, special moment.
First
I
in
know,
line.
and I feel lucky that you've, Michael, agreed to be on the podcast as often as you have. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Always. Yep.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. This was fun. I appreciate you. You're all welcome on anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next guest, Matt Tuggle, my neighbor. Thanks for jumping on.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Do you mind telling people just a little bit about yourself?
I started making jewelry, I guess, in 2001. I was fortunate that my high school had a really awesome program. And then I started working for people for about a decade in the industry. And then we launched our own business, Tuggle Designs, in 2016, I believe. And most recently, we just opened a storefront here in Evergreen in 2023. So that's kind of the quick timeline of my history there.
How many years is that total as a jeweler?
See, 24, I think, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, so 24 years in, you decide to apply and attend this Grandmaster's program. What did you take away from it? What did you glean from it? What was your experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I always try to further education. I feel like when the moment you stop growing is kind of when you stop evolving as an artist. And my biggest, this Grandmasters was kind of exactly what I needed. From a technical standpoint, I've kind of learned techniques, having so many years under my belt, but having a different focus on the art and creating and the rendering and just the more artistic side was kind of exactly what I was looking for out of this class, which Michael delivered. So yeah, it
That's
was
really cool.
yeah, for sure. Taking a step back from the hustle and bustle, especially of the store, you're constantly needing to get stuff done, and I feel like I've had a little bit of a hang up on designing, and taking the time to step back and slow down and focus on rendering and just where your inspiration and creativity come from was a huge thing for this class. So
Next up, we have Miss Sarah Williamson. Sarah, thanks so much for joining. Do you mind just really quickly, for those who don't know you yet, introducing yourself and your brand that you've been working on?
Yeah, my name's Sarah Williamson, and I'm based in Nevada City, California. And I have a brand called Precious Ghost, and it's been mostly online. We specialize in colored sapphires mostly, but also unique diamond cut antiques, things along these lines. But we have the brand, and then I also have a storefront that is the showroom for the brand in Nevada City, and it's called The Face.
Yes, that's the one that I think I saw first and foremost. I was introduced to the Fates pretty early on,
Yeah.
I think a couple of years ago, or when you first were starting to pop up on my feed. Was really fun. So you went and you took this class for 2 weeks with all of these really cool people. What were some of your biggest takeaways and insights?
It's hard to boil it down, but I showed up there kind of expecting, it's been a while since I've taken a class of any kind. I think maybe about 8 years. And I tend to choose like specialized topics and I did do a class in that. So this is my first time going to actually a proper stone setting class, period. I taught myself most things and, friends have taught me, etc. But I was expecting technical knowledge, like some magical secrets of Michael's, which we definitely got, but I came away just being really inspired by Michael as a person, his work ethic and where his work comes from, which was just really refreshing to see. Everything that he does has meaning and intention behind it. Even the smallest things are also thoughtful. And it was really inspiring. And it made me think of the ways in which I could see my work differently and approach my work differently. So I kind of went in thinking technical, stone setting, craziness, and then came out of it like mind blown with something completely different that I didn't expect.
That was beautifully said. How do you think that that's going to show up in some of your pieces now moving forward?
Well, I have to, with everything going on right now, I have to carve out time. And, I've had the store. The store is constantly needing work, and then the brand, there's always tons of things to do, and you never get close to the middle of the to-do list. So I have to carve out the time. And, I've decided that what I'm going to do is carve out Thursdays for myself where I'm going to just work without my work having to have any kind of strings attached. So no economic concerns, time constraints. I can just doodle. I can get lost in something kind of silly and irrelevant, or I can dive deep into the specific part of a piece that I want to create. But I want to just spend that time one day a week where I am just being creative in some fashion, um, towards the goal of, creating these new pieces. Like I have a piece that I'm working on for my mother, and it's been in the works for many years. And I'm like, I've been feeling stuck for a couple of years with it because I want to make it so epic and so grand. It's something she can brag about her daughter, you know? And, you know, I was talking to Michael and he suggested that I just write a letter to her and write down different words and different feelings and different experiences and just anything that comes to mind when I think about my mother and just like write it down and kind of like start with that. So I think going forward, I'm always going to be busy at this point. So I have to physically carve out the time. let my employees know I'm not accessible, even if I'm 10 feet away. Do not disturb. I have to
Yeah.
make the time in order to get into it. So I'm not really sure where that will take me, but I have to just start and see where it will take me. Because at this point, I'm kind of entering like a Sarah 2.0, where I used to do all one of a kind art pieces years ago. And I felt like I was maybe designing in another voice, and I want to like figure out what is my voice in a different way, or who is Sarah now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as you've evolved as an artist.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
That's really cool. It's almost like, so what you're communicating is you need to have a protected time to just
Yeah.
allow yourself anything, any exploration.
I need structure, with everything going on. There needs to be some structure. I find that really helps me.
So you're another jeweler that's kind of siloed into your business, and then being in this like 2-week intensive with all these other really high caliber jewelers. What was it like being in that room for you?
It was really fun. Yeah, for sure. I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I had a couple good friends with me. And I got a great seat in the class. I was next to the teacher, so I got to, a good view of the bench and everything. Well, it was pretty exciting, for sure. And you go back and forth from being excited and talking, nonstop with your friends to intently listening to Michael for a while. Usually he would, when he would talk, he had the room's attention for sure. It was a very captive audience. And then you would be in these moments where you're just not talking for hours and hours. And there were several days where I was like, I hope they know I'm a nice person, because I just, haven't talked all day to anybody. I'm just behind the microscope, really focusing on practicing my outdoors.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great. Sarah, this is fun. Where can people find you, and where can they watch your work evolve for the years to come?
You can find me on the Fates Jewelry on Instagram, Precious Ghost Jewelry on Instagram, and both of those.com or my website, preciousghost.com, thefatesjewelry.com. So that's a couple
Cool.
places where you just search my name, because I'm also going to be starting something for my own one of a kind pieces.
And do you mind, just because I'm curious, is there a story behind either of those names?
Well, the Fates is based on the three mythological fate, the Greek mythology figures that kind of are with you throughout your lifetime. So there's a lot of fun in that. And Precious Ghost is kind of just like a playful little term. I kind of just think of all my little pieces of my little precious ghosties out there in the world.
That's really fun. That's great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for jumping on, and I hope to meet you soon. I look forward to seeing more of your pieces come out soon.
Of course. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, Michael, we've now heard from all of your students. Final thoughts. What's next for you?
I'll be back at my bench once I get my new workshop all set up, because it's still all in boxes. I'll be back at my bench alone making things. And that's kind of my comfort zone. No distractions, nobody else to justify or interact with. Just me and my thoughts and unloading them on paper or in metal. So yeah, I think I'll be back to that for a while. There's quite a few very special projects that I have stored up here in my brain that I need to get out of there, and back to finding opportunities to speak where I can share creativity and getting people to think bigger.
I love that. What would you like our audience to think about and take away from this episode?
I would like for you to check out the jewelers pages that spoke before me, that took the class. Follow them and see how they creatively blossom. I don't know. I guess I'd have really great words to say about GRS if you get the chance to go there and take a class or to teach. Again, I just couldn't think of a better group of people. And more so, whoever you are listening, pick up a pencil and do a drawing. Like if you haven't done a drawing for a little while, pick up a pencil and do a drawing today. I'd love for people to do that.
Where can people find you?
Well, they can't because I work in seclusion. But you could check out my Instagram page, which is David Michael Jules. I'm going to redo my website. That'll be fun to look at in the future, but right now it's probably not worth a visit. So head over to Instagram.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Have a great
Thank you.
rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. And that is a wrap on this episode of Pass the Torch, Legacies in Jewelry. Again, I just thought it would be important to kind of debrief after a really significant class that happened in our midst and just get some reflections from both the teacher and some of the people who took the class, who were able to take the class. It's definitely something, again, on my radar that I look forward to hopefully applying to in the future. And again, this wasn't affiliated with GRS. It was just me doing some market research, if you will. And it was a lot of fun. So thank you to everyone who came on today. Thank you, Michael. And I will see you next week on the next episode. Cheers.